This course is presented to you free of charge by TTJ Tech Services of www.ttjtech.biz and by Stir It Up of www.stiritup.com. And remember, stir is spelled with a U, not an I, so that's STURITUP.com. TTJ Tech Services and Stir It Up are pleased to offer this course to you, to the glory of God, and to the benefit of all those who listen. Well, praise God. And once again, welcome to Voiceover In and Out. This is session 4 today, and we're going to get started. We have a couple of things on the agenda for today. I'm going to do a little more voiceover discussion because this is a voiceover course, so that makes sense, right? But we're also going to switch gears a little bit partway through the session and talk about Apple accounts. I told you we'd be looking forward to that today. You know, our goal is to teach you voiceover, but we have to make sure that you can use your device in the ways that make the most sense and that you'll have access to all the features and functionality going forward. So we will be talking about Apple accounts today, formerly called Apple IDs. They've been renamed more recently to Apple accounts. So we will be discussing that as well. And we're also going to take a look at the settings app a little bit today too. What I'd like to start with, though, is something that actually trainer Sarah mentioned on Monday, and I want to go a little more in depth into that, and that is how to change some of your voiceover settings quickly and kind of on the fly. Let me go ahead and get the original sound going because we're going to need to do some demos right away. And there is a voiceover gesture that's going to allow us to do quick changes to our settings. Now,
select done button. Speech off.
Okay. I've got my iPhone here. As you know, you can go into settings and accessibility, and we're going to show you more around settings today too. We also talked on Monday about the rotor, and I mentioned to you that you can put various voiceover settings in the rotor. You've probably seen that for yourselves by now. And, you know, some of the common ones people have in there are things like speaking rate and volume and things like that. And that, of course, is personal preference. I don't do that because I really don't change my speaking rate or anything like that. If I were going to change it for certain situations, I'd create an activity, which that's a little more advanced, and that's going to be later on in the course that we mention more about that probably. But in the most basic sense, I just kind of keep the voice the way it is. I like it, the settings that I have it. I guess really I do have the screen recognition in the rotor, which is a voiceover setting. We talked about that on Monday, so I can't say that I have no voiceover settings in the rotor, but very few. But there is another way that no matter where you are, what app you're in, or what you're doing, you can quickly change voiceover settings on the fly. And to access these quick settings, you are going to perform a 2-finger quadruple tap. That's right, 2 fingers 4 times. And Sarah, as I said, made reference to that on Monday, but I'm going to show it to you now.
Wallet.
So you can
double tap to open.
You can hear that I'm on the home screen. I just swiped to a random icon there. It was the Wallet app, which we'll learn about later on in the course. But let's do a 2-finger quadruple tap and see what happens.
Voiceover settings, heading.
Now you heard that. Voiceover settings. And we are probably as far to the left as we can go.
Voiceover settings,
but
heading.
The same thing applies as always. We do a 1-finger swipe. Let's swipe to the right.
Done button.
There's the done button. I'm imagining, based on predictable patterns, that's probably in the upper right-hand corner of the screen, so I could probably touch that.
Done.
Yep,
button.
There it is. All right, let's swipe to the right. Praise God. Let's see what else we have here.
Activities, off, button, adjustable. Audio ducking, off, button, adjustable. Audio ducking amount, 80%, button, Braille alert messages, Braille auto advance, Braille input, Braille output, English.
Look at all these choices. It's alphabetically going through basically every voiceover setting, I suppose. Let's go further.
Braille caption pad, direct touch, switched button, on.
Now that one
double tap to toggle setting.
is a toggle. You double tap that to turn it off or on. The other ones seemed to be sliders. You could swipe up or down with one finger to change the value.
Hardware typing feedback, characters and words, button, adjustable. Swipe up or down with one finger to adjust the value.
See, so if I swipe up or down,
Nothing. Characters, words, characters and words, nothing. Characters and words.
swipe either direction, it just kind of goes around in a circle there, in a cycle. And so I'm going to leave it on what it was.
Hints, switched button, on.
Okay, do I want
Double tap to toggle setting.
voiceover hints? And I've told you before, I highly recommend. It's personal preference, I know, but I highly encourage, and really we as a team highly encourage you to leave your hints turned on. Remember, you can always ignore them or move past them if you don't want to hear them, but you don't want to miss out on something. I'm not going to go through all these for the sake of time.
Image descriptions, home screen and app library. Switched button, on. Large cursor, switched button, off. Live regions and announcements, home screen and app library. Switched button, on.
Let's go ahead and turn
Double
off.
tap to toggle setting.
We can hit the done button, or I can just swipe up
Music.
to go home. And so I really wanted to show you that because you can do that 2-finger quadruple tap no matter where you are, and you can quickly bring up all of these voiceover settings. They call it quick settings. And if I recall, under your actual settings, you can choose what appears in the quick settings. So if this is too much for you and you say, I don't want to see all of this in my quick settings, you can even customize what is there. But I've just left it at the defaults, and if I want to find something, I know it's all alphabetical. And when I find it, I just pay attention to what it is. If it's a toggle, I can double tap it. If I want to change the state of it, if it says, what did it say? Adjustable. If it's adjustable, why then I know I can swipe up or down with one finger to adjust the value. So again, these are quick settings. It prevents you from having to go into your actual settings, which we're going to look at next. And it allows you to change a lot of things. And again, you can go into your settings and remove some of this stuff from quick settings because maybe you don't want to have all those in there. But basically, that's how the quick settings work. And it's an easy way to change your voiceover settings if you don't want to have a whole bunch of extra settings in the rotor. And that's where the topic first came from on Monday, because we were talking about how some people put screen recognition in their rotor and others don't, and so forth, and you have to just be careful with that. But you could also do it through quick settings. All right, so now it's also very important for us to talk about the actual settings app. And so I am going to show you that in a few minutes. But there's two other things I want to briefly discuss that are sort of the real basics here yet. Before we get into, next week we're going to start getting into more specific apps and different things of that nature. But one of the things that is universally available on your device is, and I'm going to spell her name because if I say it, it may set off a whole bunch of devices at your house. It'll definitely set off devices at my house and ours. So I'm gonna spell Siri. You know what that is. And she is the personal assistant, and I use that a lot. And some of you may have devices that have Apple Intelligence. That makes what she's able to do even richer. Others may not have Apple Intelligence. You can still use Siri. There is a beautiful integration now on the Apple Intelligence devices between Siri and ChatGPT. For those of you who don't know what ChatGPT is, it's artificial intelligence, or AI. And what this is going to allow you to do is ask very, very conversational questions in an ongoing fashion. You can keep talking about it and get a lot of, really have a conversation with AI. And I'm going to focus a little bit on that, which I've never done before, but you can't escape it now. I mean, it's everywhere, so I think we need to embrace it and we need to talk about it. I'm a big fan of AI. I'll be honest with you. I'm a big fan of it. I don't use it a lot in writing because I enjoy writing and I want it to be genuinely the content that I create, okay? I'm not saying that I'm a perfect writer or that I can't, benefit from, improvement or this or that. But I'm saying it's the work that I'm doing as opposed to letting AI just do it for me. I'd rather do it. Now, I have used the writing components that Apple Intelligence offers, and then ChatGPT offers some further ones. I have used some of that if maybe I write a document and I say, well, I don't like the way that I said this particular line, but I can't really, at the moment, I'm not coming up with any better way to say it. Then maybe I'll have Apple Intelligence rewrite that. A paragraph or two, or you can do that with ChatGPT. I don't use a ton of that, right? But there are some useful writing tools that Apple Intelligence brings, even without ChatGPT, and I use them on occasion. One of the coolest things that we'll show you later on in this course is how, for example, you could record a voice memo and then you can actually bring that into notes and have it summarized with like key points or in a maybe a table or what have you. And so this would be great for classroom type environments and stuff like that. um, I mostly use AI and specifically ChatGPT for um, conversational type questions that what I'm actually finding now, and another one that I use is I'll spell this one too, Alexa. I have the Echo Show devices and some other ones, and I use Alexa Plus. I've opted into that and fully embraced it, and really I use that and ChatGPT more than I do Google searches anymore. Because with a Google search, you have to look through the different resources and so forth, and you find that you can ask ChatGPT or Alexa Plus and you'll get these immediate answers. Let me be very, very clear with the caveats on this. That doesn't remove the process of thinking, right? I guess there's these MIT studies right now that are saying, people that do a lot of that, they aren't using their brains as much. Well, that's crazy, in my opinion. You shouldn't be void of needing to think and especially to analyze and be discriminate about the results you are getting, because the A in AI proves it's artificial, right? So AI is always going to need us more than we're ever going to need it, and it can make mistakes, and so we need to be analytical and think critically about that. The other thing, and I can't even believe I have to say this, but sadly that's some of this is happening in the world. People are asking ChatGPT things like, should I break up with my boyfriend? Should I drink cyanide? I mean, I'm not kidding. I'm not making that up. That's not me trying to be funny. That's real stuff that people have done. And people are blaming the AI companies. Well, listen, my friends, AI is never going to be and should not be your relationship counselor, your spiritual guide, your life coach. It's never meant to be that kind of thing. The problem isn't the fact that Chat GPT might tell you how to drink cyanide. The problem is you thinking you should ask it that question. So, I'm just making that point. I think probably most people that are here in this particular session already are aware of that, and you probably think it's as ridiculous as I think it is. But I just feel like I should put that out there since we're talking about AI. I can't even believe I have to, but hey, that's where we are. So I make that clear. But in its if kept in its proper place, it can be a really, really powerful tool. So what I'm going to do is take, just 3 or 4 minutes here, demonstrate some basic SIRI stuff, and then a little bit of AI SIRI going along with it, just to show you the kinds of things you can do. And so
Podcasts.
I'm going
Music.
to I'm going to hold down the side button of my device and talk to SIRI. You can also, if you have it set up right, you can just say her name or say hey followed by the word SIRI. That's all customizable. I'm going to just use the side button, and I do have a device with Apple Intelligence here. Let's just ask it some random questions just for fun. Let's just see what we get. What's the weather like today?
Expect some clear skies today. The high temperature will be 67 degrees and low will be 48.
How many cups are in 5.5 gallons?
5.5 gallons is 88 cups.
How do you say hello, how are you in Spanish?
In Spanish, hello, how are you is.
Hola, ¿cómo estás?
What does a dog sound like?
Here's a Rottweiler.
When is my son's birthday?
Carson Valbrecht's birthday is 165 days away on March 29th.
And he's just pulling in, which is why I thought about using him in that example. You teach, and we'll show you more about this next week and beyond. But you teach her who your son is, and you fill out all that information. That's how it knows that. I might have the sound of the puppy barking here just for a moment as my son comes in the door from work, but it won't last long because once he gets in, she'll stop. So I'm just holding off for a minute because I know that's about to happen. Maybe we'll continue anyway here. Um, what's 85 times 6?
85 times 6 is 510.
Tell me a joke.
How do we know that hot is faster than cold? Because you can catch a cold.
Wow. All I can say to that is wow. Uh, okay. I'm looking for a good pizza place near me.
One possibility I see is Best Way Pizza on East South Hopewell Street in Everett. A little over a mile to your east, and it gets 4 stars on Yelp. How about that one?
Sure.
Perfect. I can call that location or get directions. Which would you like?
And of course, I stopped it there, but I could proceed with that, and I could tell it to call or give me directions or whatever. Um, let's see. Now, some things that here's something I don't know if everybody knows that you can do with SIRI. You can ask specific questions about your Apple devices and almost get support right from her, like this. Let's say, how do I add a link in the Notes app?
Here's how to add a link in Notes. First, open the note where you want to add the link. Second, select the text you want to link or tap where you want to insert the link. Third, tap the forward button, then tap Add Link. Fourth, enter the URL or select a note. And fifth, tap Done.
All right, so I don't know how many of you knew that you could do that, but you can ask SIRI for support on using your devices, and you can. There's a lot of other. I'm not going to demonstrate even every possibility I can think of, and I'm sure there's millions I'm not even thinking of, but even the ones I'm not going to demonstrate everything for the sake of time, right? You can ask it to find photos for you, either online or from your photo library. You can ask it to play music. You can ask it to search the internet for things, and then you can ask about specific like tell me about such and such an event, and it will give you a history either from Wikipedia or other resources. I can do something like this. Who was president of the United States in 1865?
Andrew Johnson became the 17th President of the United States in 1865. He took office upon the assassination of President Abraham Lincoln during the closing months of the American Civil War. This answer is from Britannica.
Is it safe to feed my dog blueberries?
Yes, blueberries are safe for dogs in moderation. They're low in calories and high in antioxidants, fiber, and vitamins, but only give them as a small treat to avoid stomach upset. That was from ChatGPT. Check important info for mistakes.
So in that instance, it chose to use ChatGPT. Now I can force it to use ChatGPT by calling on its name if I want to do that. Um, so, like for example, okay, uh, let's try this one here. I like air travel, so let's do ChatGPT. In aviation, what is a glass cockpit?
A glass cockpit is an aircraft flight deck that uses digital electronic displays usually LCD screens instead of traditional round analog gauges. These screens integrate flight, navigation, engine, and system information into a clear, centralized interface for the pilots. That was from ChatGPT. Check important info for mistakes.
And then I could do, something like this. ChatGPT, show me some recipes using chicken and zucchini. Now notice, what we're going to do is,
Got it. Let me know if you want more recipes or cooking tips later.
okay,
That was from ChatGPT.
what I have here, and
Alert button. OPE. Do you want one bullet chicken and zucchini stir fry? Saute diced chicken with garlic, soy sauce, and ginger, then toss in sliced zucchini and finish with sesame oil. Copy button. Here are a few quick ideas.
they have recipes listed on the screen, and what I'm doing is swiping with one finger to read them, and notice there's a copy button.
Copy button.
So I can actually, I can copy the recipes and put them in a note or in my recipe app, I suppose. So now you might be asking me, well, what if I don't have a device that supports Apple Intelligence? Is there any way that I can still use ChatGPT? And the answer is yes. You can download the free ChatGPT app. If you create an account, which those are free as well, you don't need the paid version, but if you get the free account even, then it will store your Siri requests that use ChatGPT also. You can always go back and look. But I can launch the app. I don't know if I,
2:28 p.m.
let me just do this here. Launch ChatGPT. I don't know if I've opened this on my phone or not. I do on my iPad, because my iPad's, okay, let's do my, I gotta sign in quickly.
Close. Cap. Continue with Apple. Continue with Apple.
And
Let's collect screenshot. Sign in button.
Face ID.
ChatGPT. Club loading.
All right, now I'm in the app.
Loading.
And
New message.
in the app, you can type, you can attach photos, and you can even talk. I even have a Siri shortcut. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get out of the app and I'm going to use Siri, but I'm going to say something slightly different. And you can do this on any device where you have the ChatGPT app installed. You do not need Apple Intelligence for this. I'm going to do an ongoing conversation. Let's go back to my puppy again. Let's talk about her. So start a conversation with ChatGPT.
ChatGPT. Create an image for my presentation.
Yeah, I don't know if it started.
Make a count the number. Make me a ChatGPT dictation button. Switch to voice mode. Switch to voice mode.
On my iPad, it normally just does it. It didn't, but I'll tap switch to voice mode and then I'll ask it something.
Switch to voice mode. Switch to voice mode. Switch dictation.
Okay.
Switch to voice new message. Dictation. Switch to
I
voice
don't know
mode.
why it
Switch dictation button. New
isn't,
message.
isn't
Add. Make me a count.
doing that.
Personal web page. Switch
It
to
normally,
switch to voice mode.
I'm gonna
switch to apps.
I'm gonna
ChatGPT.
get out of the app and try it again because launch ChatGPT. I'm just gonna go in it myself. I don't know why it didn't want to use voice mode on this device.
Emote dictate. Cap Q. Cap double
Alright,
dictate.
so
Dictate. Cap. Create an image. New. Help create.
let's
Create.
try.
New. Switch cap.
Let's try it now. If I want to give my dog some treats, what are some good human foods that I can give to my dog?
Matthew Vollbrecht. Share clip.
Okay.
Choose voice. Enable microphone.
Oh, I see what the problem is. I told you I never used it on my phone. I have to enable microphone access.
Notification. Live activity. Background app. Cellular.
Let's see. I might just grab my other iPad rather than mess with that right now because
Switch button. Off.
Yeah, on.
Photos. Allow chat.
Alright.
Apps.
Now let's try it one more time. If not, I'll switch to my iPad.
New message. Dictation. Switch to voice.
If I'd like to give my dog a treat, what are some good human foods I can use for treats?
Absolutely. There are quite a few human foods that dogs can enjoy in moderation. For example, plain cooked chicken, small pieces of carrots, green beans, apple slices without seeds, and even blueberries can be great. Just make sure to avoid things like chocolate, grapes, onions, and anything with xylitol. Always best to keep it simple and healthy.
Speak now.
Xylitol, what is that? What kinds of things have xylitol?
Yeah, xylitol is a sugar substitute that's commonly used in sugar free gum, candies, baked goods, and even some peanut butters and toothpaste. It's really toxic to dogs, even in small amounts. So it's definitely something to keep an eye out for.
And why can't
Speak now.
why can't dogs have grapes?
NEW.
Yeah, grapes and raisins are actually toxic to dogs and can cause kidney failure, even in small quantities. The exact reason why is still not fully understood, but it's definitely safer to avoid giving them to dogs altogether.
Speak now.
What about strawberries? Can I give them strawberries?
Absolutely. Strawberries are generally safe for dogs and can be a fun, sweet treat for them. They're packed with vitamins and antioxidants. Just make sure to wash them thoroughly and give them in moderation to avoid any tummy upset.
Thank you.
Speak now. Share a clip.
Now,
Share a clip.
you get the idea
Do not disturb.
of how, and I'm going to close this.
Page
But
one, two.
you know,
Do not
this is
dis-
that is available to
dismiss
you
pop-up.
even without
Caption.
Apple
Matthew
Intelligence
follow Greg
because
Matthew.
I'm
Share.
using
Choose
the
mute
app.
audio.
And let me
Close.
just
Button.
close that. And so there's a lot more you can do with Apple Intelligence. The whole point of this was to really talk about SIRI, but I wanted to give a shout out to ChatGPT because I do think it's really good. And I apologize for the slight delay there while I had to set up the app. That's because, as I said, I really haven't used the app on my phone. I do on my iPad because that I don't have Apple Intelligence on there. And you notice that shortcut that I have says start a conversation with ChatGPT. So I can summon SIRI on my iPads and I can say that, and then it'll open ChatGPT normally right to the voice mode. The reason it didn't, well, I actually think it tried to, but I had to enable microphone access on my phone because I'd never used it that way on the phone. But you got to see the experience of that, and it's really good. I mean, honestly, it really is good. And you got a lot of information. So, have some fun with that. Play if you don't know how to download apps and stuff yet, that's okay. You can still play with SIRI. And, if she can't answer the question, she'll give you web results and so forth. But yeah, I mean, this is something to spend some time with. You can also do Spotlight, which I'm not going to spend much time on Spotlight, but basically Spotlight is a search tool that allows you to type things in and it immediately shows you the results. And you remember Spotlight from being on the home screen here.
Wallet. Setting. Search. Page 1 of 9.
Remember, it says
Adjustable.
search.
Activate to open Spotlight.
Okay, if I double tap that, it opens Spotlight, and I can type what I want to know. And you can type math problems there too. And you can type like 8 cups to gallons. You can type, pizza place, just the same kinds of stuff we use. Or you can type the names of apps. It'll show you the app. You type names of, anything, and it'll have multiple results. Music results, web results, book results, all of these different things based upon what you type. And so that is also useful, although I don't use it nearly as often um, as using SIRI. Okay, so we've talked about some of those basics. The next thing I want to talk about is the settings app, and then finally we're going to switch gears and talk about Apple accounts. I'm not going to spend much time in the settings app because, again, for the sake of time, I want to keep it concise. But I think it is worthwhile for all of you to open the settings app and simply swipe through it and see what is available. And if something interests you, maybe you go into it and you play with it. Like, for example, the sounds, or on iPhones, they call it sounds and haptics. And so you can go in and you can adjust your ringtone. You can have, uh, different sounds for text tones and calendar alerts. And, you can find ones. Apple ships a good many with the devices, or you can go to the tone store and buy some that you might like. later on we'll show you how to create your own. Maybe I don't know if we'll get to that in this class exactly, but we'll reference it definitely. And so you could play with sound settings. Some people might want to play with their wallpaper settings and change the colors and the wallpaper and so forth. Certainly one of the places that voiceover users like to go is accessibility settings. So you go to settings and you go to accessibility, and you can go to voiceover in there, and you can customize your voiceover settings, not only the rotor, but of course other things that you might want. Under general, you can find things like about, see what version of iOS you're running, your storage, how much free space you have, display and brightness. You can adjust your auto lock time. How quickly does the device go to sleep, if at all? You can, there's, Face ID and passcode. There's so much. And then one of the final options down at the bottom in search is the apps category. And all the rest of this stuff is in there alphabetically. If you want to find settings for mail or phone or Safari, you go into apps and then you can go alphabetically. And this gives me an opportunity to teach you another voiceover fundamental, and that is the section index. When you have long lists, especially things that are like alphabetical and so forth, there is along the right-hand side of your screen an on-screen control that, for sighted folks, shows the letters of the alphabet. For us, it tells us that it's a section index, and we can swipe up or down with one finger to quickly jump to the letter of the alphabet we want. So allow me to show this to you by going into settings.
2:37 p.m. Search. Settings. Settings.
I'm going to go down near the bottom of the screen, and I'll tell you even another voiceover gesture. A four-finger single tap. If you do a four-finger single tap near the bottom of the screen, it will take you to the bottom of the screen. And if you do a four-finger single tap near the top of the screen, it'll take you back up to the top. Now, I will say, there's a caveat with that. It's not always going to really take you to the true bottom of the screen. In some apps, it's going to take you to the bottom of what is visible. If you want to go further, you might have to do a three-finger scroll. Remember the three-finger scroll gesture? Swipe up with three fingers to go further down on the same page. Swipe down with three fingers to go back up the page, like you're pushing the page towards you and away from you. And then I told you you can swipe left and right with three fingers to change the page in situations where that's an option. But here, it's just all one long page, so you can swipe up or down with three fingers. So there are some apps where when I do a four-finger single tap near the bottom of the screen, I'm not really getting to the true bottom. I'm getting to the bottom of what is visible. But I might need to continue swiping up with three fingers to go further down. Or some apps will have what they call a vertical scroll bar. I'm not going to get into that right now, but they do. And then the same is true with going back up to the top. The four-finger single tap near the top may or may not really take you to the very top. But there is a little secret, it's not really a secret, but a little tidbit for going back up to the top of very long documents or web pages.
Setting.
It is a one-finger double tap on the status bar. If you ever listen to the status bar, if you have your hints on, you'll notice that one of the very last things it says is double tap to scroll to top. Well, that's exactly what that does. So if I'm clear at the bottom of something, let me go way down here in settings.
American page 9 of 21.
I'm doing that by doing the three-finger swipe up, by the way.
Page 30 peacock button. Page 14 of Prismo button.
I'm pretty far down. If I want to quickly jump back to the top, I'll touch the status bar.
2:40 p.m.
Now I'll double tap with one finger.
Page 1 of 21.
Notice it said page 1. It brought me right back up to the top. So that's how we do that. So I'm going to go back here to settings again so I can show you this. At the bottom of the screen,
Toolbar. Search field.
There's a search field. That's very common, and you can search for your settings that way. That's at the very bottom center of the screen. We'll learn more about search fields next week. But swipe to the left.
Apps button.
Apps. And that's the one I wanted to show you. Let's go into that.
Selected. Section index. Adjustable.
Notice.
Swipe up or down with one finger to adjust the value.
it already took me to the section index. If I want to find that, it's going to be along the right-hand side of the screen. Now, again, why would I want this? Well, because I have a lot of apps. And so my first apps start with the letter A. Let's say I want to go all the way down and find an app that starts with a later letter of the alphabet, like let's say the TV app. Do I really want to have to swipe to the right that many times or even three finger swipe? No. What I want to do is I want to use the section index. I'll swipe down with one finger until it gets to the letter T.
Cap B, Cap C, Cap D, Cap, 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 Cap O, Cap R, Cap S, Cap T, selected.
Now I'll just lift my finger and touch kind of the center of the screen.
Thief puzzle, button.
I'm on the T's. TH.
Ticketmaster, TikTok, tips, Toka World, Tom Friends, Translate, Travel Up, Truths Up, Tubi, TV, button.
And there's TV, which is what I said I wanted in this pretend example. I can double tap it.
Allow TV to access, heading.
Now I'm in my TV app settings. When I want to go back, remember predictable patterns? And I told you before, there's almost always going to be a back button in the upper left corner of the screen. And here there is.
Apps, back button.
And again.
Settings, back button. Settings,
now,
heading.
Real world practical here. What if I didn't know where the back button was? I could have swiped. I could have kept swiping left and right until I found it. But because, praise God, he shows me these things. And I'm telling you, you learn these predictable patterns, it's going to make the difference. You know that the back button is almost always in the upper left corner of the screen. So I just reached up and touched the upper left corner. Not quite as high as the status bar, but what you would normally consider the left corner. And there it is, the back button. So you just reach up, touch that, and tap on it, and it said apps back button. So then I double tap on it to activate it. Same as before. Touch once to bring focus to it, double tap to activate it. Now, as I said, all of your apps are listed under settings. In the main settings category, you're going to start out
Matthew Volbrecht, family, button.
With your name and your family options if you use family sharing. We'll talk a little about family sharing. You keep going to the right, you're going to have
airplane mode, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, cellular, personal hotspot.
And on and on. All right, we go as we keep swiping to the right. My recommendation is play with these settings. I mentioned sounds. Well, that's a little further. It's
battery, general, battery.
Battery you could take a look at.
General.
There's general.
Button.
Here's accessibility.
Accessibility. Action button. Apple Intelligence and Siri. Camera. Control center. Display and brightness. Home screen and app library. Search. Button. Standby. Button. Wallpaper. Notifications. Sounds and haptics. Button.
There's your sounds. So you can play with these things on your own. And, you know, you're not going to break anything. You might try to remember what things are set to right now in case you do change them and don't like the results, but you're not going to break or hurt anything, right? There's not going to be a situation where it's irreversible. You just need to, you know, keep track of what you're doing. But I would encourage you to play with these settings because there's so much here. And we will talk about some of them throughout the course. So there's going to be some weeks where we have even a special Tuesday session that will go along with the course. And maybe we're going to teach you focus modes like do not disturb and things of that nature. You know, that's later. So we will highlight some of these. But you can learn a lot by going in and you can play with these. And the other way that you can learn a lot is by asking SIRI about specific settings. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to combine those two things today to show you that. And then there's an app on your phones called Tips, T-I-P-S. And it is laid out in such a way that it shows you different tips and tricks about how to use your iPhone and iOS and different categories of things. But it also has a category of manuals or user guides. And you can pull up the iPhone user guide. There's a complete section there for Voiceover. But then you can also read the rest of the user guide. What I like to do is read the Voiceover section first, and then I can make the transfer in my mind, right? So if it says in another section I'm reading about, let's say, the music
Screen
app.
dimmed.
Whoop,
Focus.
excuse me there. I'm reading about the music app or something, and it says, you know, tap the play button. Well, I know as a Voiceover user, that means I have to bring focus to it and then double tap it, right? I can make that connection in my mind So I say read the voiceover section first. But you can get your iPhone user guide. They're always up to date there. And that's the tips app. So we had settings, we had tips today. Those two things that we want to talk about. One other setting place that I want to show you, and that is if you long press an app on the home screen. So let's get out of settings,
Home.
find an app,
App Store.
and just double tap and hold. Remember the long press gesture. We learned that last week.
Remove app. But remove require Face ID. Edit home screen. Button.
Edit home screen.
Started editing.
Now, I'm not going to get into reordering apps today, but at the upper left corner,
Music is at done. Button.
there's a done button and
Edit. Button.
an edit button. All right, I'm not even going to go into it
Done.
because I
Finished
don't
editing.
really feel like it's something that we should do this early. But if you want to play with it on your own, I just wanted to let you know that it's there. If you go into that edit button, it's going to let you change, again, your wallpaper. For those of you who maybe are a little more advanced and familiar with this stuff already, it's going to let you add widgets to your home screen. I mentioned widgets last week, and you can add widgets. And another thing you can do is you can change the appearance of your screen for those people who either can see or you just like to do it even if you can't see. I enjoy it. I'm totally blind at this point, but I like doing it. And in iOS 26, they've added a thing called liquid glass.
Screen dimmed.
Liquid glass is a very transparent or translucent,
TV.
flowing type of look to the interface. And now with liquid glass, you can even make your icons clear. So like I have all of my icons clear on I think a blue or purplish blue background. You can tint your icons to match the color of your iPhone, or in some cases the iPhone case. So again, if you are totally blind, maybe you think, well, that's pointless, I don't want to mess with that. But other people like it, right? Some people, even if they are blind or visually impaired, they still like to know that there's cool colors going on their iPhone. I saw the iPhone 17 Pro. I said, I really don't need it. I'm happy with my 16 Pro, praise God. I said, if there were one reason I'd get the 17 Pro, it's so that I could get the color Cosmic Orange. That just sounds awesome. It really, really does. So maybe someday I'll get a Cosmic Orange iPhone. But, you know, ask me which color I have right now, and I got to be honest with you, I forget at the moment. I'd have to. I knew when I got it because it was what I wanted. I picked it out, but I just off the top of my head, you know. But anyway, so a couple of little side trips
Screen
there,
dimmed.
but I think they're important to help you to know some places where you can change your settings, your voiceover settings. You can use Siri, and you can get tips and tricks and learn how to find the user guide for your device. Now, we're going to do one more thing today, and that is we're going to switch gears and talk for a few minutes about Apple accounts. Because if you don't already have an Apple account, it is super important that you get one. Now, for starters, they're free. Apple accounts are free. Yes, there are paid upgrades, and we'll reference those a bit today so that you know what they are and what they do. But Apple accounts are free, and everybody who uses an Apple device should have one. The idea is to have one Apple account per person. You can have more than one if you need it for some reason. Some people have like a separate one for their business. You really don't need to unless your particular business requires it. But basically, it's one Apple account per person. And then if you're part of a family, you can combine certain aspects of the Apple accounts for all in the family to benefit from. But we'll come back to that. So you noticed when I opened settings that the first thing I had there was my name. If you open settings and you see your name or hear your name, that means you already have an Apple account. You're already signed in. If it says sign in, then that means you're not signed in. Now, anybody can create an Apple account during the process of setting up their device or at any time. You can create it whenever you want, right from settings, and just create it whenever you need it. But if you're not yet comfortable with your Apple device, you can go to a website on another device. Maybe you're a Windows user and you can go to a website to create it. And I think the website appleid.apple.com. I think that still works. I actually think now you can do like account.apple.com or something, because as I said, they've renamed Apple IDs to Apple accounts. That's technically the correct name for them now. But I think you can still use appleid.apple.com as well to get to the right place. And what it's going to do is it's going to allow you to use your existing email address as your Apple account username, basically. Um, if you have an email address, let's say with Gmail or Outlook or your internet provider or something, you can use that as the basis for your Apple account. You can also, however, create your own email address at Apple. It's not actually going to be at apple.com, it's going to be at iCloud.com. Some of you may have heard of iCloud. We're going to talk about it in a few minutes. So you can create an email address at iCloud.com, and that can be your primary login for your Apple account. And if you are creating based on an existing third-party email account like Google or something, you can still create a free iCloud address underneath that later. And actually, that's how I did it. But then later I switched, so my primary email address is iCloud now because I no longer am a Comcast customer. My old email, Apple ID, was a Comcast email address, and I don't have Comcast anymore. We have a different internet service. It's great, praise God. But I use iCloud now as my primary Apple account login. You can change that. It's not really an issue. The important thing is, though, to have one, to create an Apple account, because an Apple account is really going to be the gateway to all things Apple, okay? When you create an Apple account and you have multiple devices, let's say you have an iPhone, an iPad, a couple of Apple TVs, maybe a Mac, whatever, the Apple account is going to be the same for all of those devices. You'll sign into every one of your devices with your same Apple account. Now, your wife, your husband, your children, they really ought to have their own. It's possible to share one, but it's not really the way Apple has designed it, especially anymore nowadays. So really, each person ought to have his or her own Apple account. It just makes things a lot easier. And as many devices as you have can be signed into that single Apple account for you. What it's going to do is it's going to give you access to iCloud. And iCloud is going to keep all of your stuff in sync across all of your devices. In other words, in a couple of weeks, well, actually even next week, you'll see it, because next week we're going to learn about the Contacts app and how to add proper contacts to your device to use with the phone and to use with SIRI and other things. You know how I asked, when is my son's birthday? Well, that's because of the contacts, right? And so we're going to learn how to do that next week. And when you add a contact to one device, it's going to sync to all of your devices. So if I add a contact to my iPhone, it immediately becomes part of the contacts on my iPad as well. I don't have to go through and add it on each individual device because of iCloud, praise God. And that is part of your Apple account. Now, the same thing works for the calendar, reminders, notes, Safari bookmarks, favorites, those kinds of things, and a lot of other stuff. It works for photos. So you can take a photo on one device, and that photo will show up on all of your devices. And if you edit or delete a photo or a video on one device, those edits or deletions will take place on all of your Apple devices. It extends to all of your documents. And this is so brilliant because, I remember the days when I was in high school and college and stuff. You'd create a document, at that time on your 7.5-pound laptop that you just thought was the best thing in the world. And now we'd look at that and say, wow, that's way too heavy. But back then, that's what it was, and that's what you did. And you created it. And then if you wanted to show that to somebody else, and you didn't have the laptop, you had to make sure you saved it to the flash drive, the CD, the floppy disk. And if you brought the wrong one, well, you didn't have your document. It was as simple as that. But now I can create, for example, a Pages document on my iPad. Now, I could be out to dinner with somebody, and I could say, hey, you want to see that document? Having dinner so we could work together on this. Let me show it to you on my iPhone. And I open my iPhone, and it's there already, praise God. And then they say to me, well, you have a mistake here. You spelled this word wrong, or you should move this up a little bit or change the font. We can change it right on the iPhone while we're eating dinner. I get home and I open my iPad back up, either one of my iPads, because I have two, praise God, or my Mac, and it's already changed there as well. The change is across the board. It's synced with iCloud. And you have shared storage across all your devices called iCloud Drive. So again, it's just any document, any file that I save to that, it's available on and across all of my devices. iCloud also is part of your purchased content. If I purchase an app on one device, I can use that same app and download it on all of my devices. Or if I have to, for some reason, restore my device, maybe I'm getting a new device, I can immediately find that app again and re-download it for free. Music that well, of course, Apple Music. You can do it with purchased music, but Apple Music is the music streaming service, so I can listen to millions of songs. All my playlists sync across the board. All of this, movies and TV shows. My what do they call that now? Used to be called Up Next, but they call it Continue Watching. That's what it is. Which I'll show you that later on in the course when we get to the TV app, and you have all of your movies and shows that you've been watching. Your progress is synced across the devices. Your progress in games is synced across the devices, right? You buy a book on one device, you can read it, and it's synced across all the devices, even where your reading reading progress and bookmarks and so forth are. And I could go on and on and on, and I think to do so would simply be overwhelming. We might already be bordering on that for some people, to be honest with you, because some of you that are brand new to this, you might be saying, wow, this is just over, and that's okay. I'm not trying to do that. I'm trying to give you an overview of what's possible. I'm trying to give those who have been longtime students, a little bit more as well. But understand that if this just seems crazy and overwhelming and too much, we're going to take it slow. We're not expecting you to have all this. There's not going to be a quiz on Monday of what, and a lot of this will be learned throughout the course. When we get into contacts, you'll see how to create a contact, and we'll talk about how they sync with iCloud. But the reason I'm talking about it right now is because I really want to stress how important it is to have that Apple account. And the Apple account does other things too. So it allows you to save. When you have an Apple account, we can save our passwords in the Passwords app. Again, something we're going to talk about later. We don't expect you to know it today. But later on in the course, we're going to show you the Passwords app, which used to be called Keychain or iCloud Keychain. And this is so important because we need to use good passwords, folks. We have multiple websites and apps that we sign into, and we should not be using password 123 for really anything. But we also should use different passwords for every app and website, because that way, if in the unlikely event that a particular website gets hacked or something, then if we use the same password, then the hackers have access to everything that we do. But if you use different passwords, it stops there. But you say, but then how am I going to remember all these passwords? And some people write them down and they have booklets of, well, you don't need to do that anymore. You have the Passwords app, formerly called Keychain, and it saves your passwords with military grade encryption. The only way you're getting into it is with your Touch ID, Face ID, or a device passcode. And you will be able to securely save all of your passwords. But again, the beautiful thing is it's synced across all your devices. What else does iCloud allow me to do? Well, it allows me to use my iPad to answer the phone, even if people call my iPhone. Or I can transfer a call from one device to another. Even my HomePod is in the mix, and my Apple Watch. It allows me to resume working right where I left off in another in the same app on another device. I mean, we could just go on and on the amazing things that iCloud does. It's where my backups are stored, device backups. And then there are the paid upgrades. Like I can pay to get more iCloud storage. I can pay to get things like Apple Music and Apple News Plus and Apple TV, which used to be called Apple TV Plus, but they've announced that it's just going to be called Apple TV now, which is a streaming service. And I can get Apple Arcade and Apple Fitness Plus and all of these different services. And I can get bundles of services at a discount. And I can get the ability to use my own email domain. So instead of being at iCloud.com, I can be at, myname.com, whatever, and these are paid upgrades that you can have and they're not very expensive, but not everybody will get them. But it's definitely an option. The one I do recommend, and again, it's all up to you. It's personal preference, right? You're the in the driver's seat. But the one I do recommend is additional iCloud storage because the starting price, oh, it goes up higher than this, but the starting price is only 99 cents a month. So you start out with the free accounts get 5 gigabytes of iCloud storage, and that means your photos that are stored in iCloud, your email, your device backups, your documents that you store in iCloud Drive, videos, all of these things, they're going to count against that 5 gigabytes. But for less than $1 a month, you can go up to 50 gigabytes. That's a huge difference. Huge difference. And to me, that's highly worth it. We actually pay for 4 terabytes of storage. Praise God. That's like 4,000 uh, gigabytes. But, our family shares that storage too. And that's the other thing. Family sharing allows you to each have your own Apple accounts, but then share the things that matter. So you get a family calendar, you get family reminders, you get family, anything you want to share with the family photos, you know, so that each of us has our own private, parts of our account that are things we don't need to share. I don't need to see all of my wife's school related events on my calendar. She doesn't need to see the appointments that don't affect her, but there may be appointments that involve both of us, things that we're doing as a family, doing with the children, doing with the kids, all of this stuff. Then we have a family calendar. So family sharing is part of this Apple account process. And we're way too early in the course for me to get into the, real details of that because a lot of it is stuff that maybe you don't even know if you need or want it yet. But we have our Tuesday and Saturday sessions where you can ask about that if you have, and really today it's fair game in our Q&A that's going to be coming up in a few minutes here because it's on topic for what I talked about today. But, even if not, you say, well, I'm going to come on Tuesday and I'm going to ask this so I can learn how to share this with my family. Or, we teach that in other ways and you can find it, in other places. But knowing that it can be done is my goal here today. And knowing the importance of having an Apple account, I cannot stress that enough because if you don't have that, you're really not going to have all of the advantages of what Apple devices offer. And one of the best things, I mean, I think Apple makes the best products in the world anyway, but one of the reasons that they shine is because of the way that they integrate together, the way that they work together. There's just nothing like it that I've ever seen. And it truly is fantastic. And it allows us to work with multiple devices so seamlessly. And that really does require an Apple account to get the full benefits of that. And we might have some people in this course that are saying, well, I don't even know, until I started taking your class, I didn't even know how to turn voiceover on. I'm not going to do all this stuff. Well, I respect you and I respect what you're saying, but I would also just put out there that, especially as a new user, a lot of us don't know what we're going to do with it at that time. I can't tell you how many customers I've had that come to me and they say, Matt, all I want is to make basic phone calls and maybe check my email. I'm not going to do anything else. And some of them will even say, I'm old, because I mean, they're not, but, by the world standards, maybe they think they are. And they say, I'm not into this stuff. I don't. Well, then they get their device and they see how brilliantly it works and how easy it is. And then I've had them come back to me and say, well, what's TikTok? What would that give me? The ability, I want to try. I just want to see what it's like. I keep hearing this hype about TikTok. I want to get TikTok. Help me get that app. And I want to use Facebook. And oh, you mean to tell me I can watch TV on my iPhone so I can get my whole cable subscription on here? Or better yet, I don't even have to pay for cable anymore. I can do it, another way. Yeah, absolutely. So now all of a sudden they're doing things. I can read a book on my iPhone. I can make grocery lists and I can cook with and they didn't even think they wanted that at the beginning. But a few weeks to a few months in, they're wanting it because it's such a joy to use. And so, I would encourage all of you to just hang tight with this And we're going to cover as much of that as we can throughout this course. But go ahead and get the Apple account if you don't already have one, because that's going to help you when it is time to look at how to do some of these other things. And you're going to say, well, I'm glad that this is set up then, so I can just immediately start using it.
Thanks for joining today's session. Didn't get your question answered? Have an additional comment or feedback? Email us info@ttjtech.biz or info@stiritup.com. And remember, stir is spelled with a U. That's STURITUP.com. Or check out our websites for additional resources. That's ttjtech.biz or stiritup.com. And remember, subscribe to the newsletter when you're there. That way, you don't miss out on any upcoming announcements or events. Thanks for joining us. God bless, and see you next time.